Now that you have been technically trained, we can move on to the aesthetic aspects of a news remote. First of all, you should understand the basics of visual composition in video. To begin with, when you are framing up on a subject, try to keep the eyes on a line 2/3 of the way up from the bottom of the screen. The eyes are the most important feature of the face, and if they are either too high or too low, it will seem unnatural to the viewer. The same goes for look space. If the subject is looking off to one side of the camera, frame his head up in the opposite direction. Otherwise, he will appear crowded and unnatural to the viewer. Another aspect of visual composition is video space. Since video is a two-dimensional medium, the cameraman must try to incorporate a third dimension to the shot. This can be done by using angles and textured backgrounds. As an example, consider a standard interview. It is much more appealing to see an over-the-shoulder shot of a subject than a straight-on-two shot of the talent and the subject facing each other. An over-the-shoulder shot allows for a close-up of the subject's face, and it avoids the flatness of perfect symmetry. Another way to give 3 dimensions is by using textured backgrounds instead of a flat one. Especially if you're inside, try to shoot with your subject in front of something that has 3 dimensions and variation, such as a bookcase. Beyond knowing the basics of visual composition, you must also understand how to shoot footage that you can later edit into a coherent product. This is an important point. You are shooting footage, not a finished product. Think in terms of post-production. You can shoot your segments in any order, and then edit them together later. Once again, let's use a standard interview for an example. During the entire interview, keep your camera on a close-up of the subject as he answers the questions. It's a good idea to use as many close-ups as possible. After the interview is over, get a 2-shot of the talent asking the subject the first few questions, and then after that, get a close-up of the talent asking the rest of the questions. When you edit these 3 segments together, you can make the interview look like a 2-camera shoot. First, use the 2-shot of the first question for an establishing shot, and then alternate the talent's questions with the subject's answers. When you are shooting footage, it's also a good idea to get a few transition shots of some action or interesting scene that pertains to the remote. These can be inserted over the subject's longer answers to keep things happening on the screen. Finally, you can get your opening and closing statements. When doing your opening statements, don't ever welcome the audience to the remote or say, "I'd like you to meet so-and-so," or "Thank someone for speaking with us today." At least don't do it on camera. Try to be as professional as possible. And to review, remember to keep eyes on a 2/3 line and to give a subject look space. Use angles and textured backgrounds to give depth to the screen. And when shooting footage, don't be afraid to do things over and over with different camera shots so that you can edit them together later. Finally, remember to keep your opening and closing statements as simple and professional as possible. All you need to say is, "This is Stephen Koster, CVN News."